I've talked about the Noxian invasion many times, but did you know that it already started with the short story Sisterhood of War? And since this story is very important, I want to summarize the first 2 parts. I will also, in the next video, read the new story about Riven, which is connected to this story, and then summarize the following parts of the story as they come out. Before we start, I would just like to say that I had to summarize 2 stories here, each of which takes over 40 minutes to read, so forgive me for skipping over some parts that are not interesting or relevant for the story. Okay, then let's go. The story begins with one of the main characters, a Noxian runesmith named Tifalengi, who is in a dark room talking to a person who she cannot make out. Still, it is presented to be normal for her. This person gave her a mission and ensures that Tifalengi understands the importance of the mission. The story now swings to the main character, a Noxian named Aerith, who grew up in a tribe a bit distant from the immortal Bastion, but still feels like a son of Noxus. He was originally a shepherd, but has now been called together with all the warriors of his tribe to come to the immortal Bastion to prepare for an invasion. However, while he waits with his tribe, he receives new orders. He reports to the gate he was called to, where he meets a veiled woman whom he should follow. He follows her ever deeper into the city through side streets to a place where people take care of animals. She leads him to a tent and means for him to go in, and then disappears. In the tent, he meets Tifalengi, who works a sword with runes. She's not very talkative, but makes it clear to him that he reports to her, and it is his job to take care of animals. She gives him a list of supplies that the quartermaster should hand over to him. The next main character also enters the tent, a tracker named Errol, who has 4 Drakehounds with her, which are called 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. The quartermaster equips Errol with a baby basilisk, which will carry the supplies. Aerith later gave it the name Talz. The group heads south together with other troops. Aerith learns that there are so many troops that all ports on the east coast have to work day and night to get the troops on the way. And when Aerith asks where they are going, he's answered that it is back to Ionia. And with that, it is clear that the second Noxian invasion of Ionia has already begun. They split up from the rest of the army, and Aerith is informed that someone will join the group. He soon realizes who is meant when they are surrounded by bandits led by a woman named Merit, with a mount named Lady Henrietta Eliza Vespasian IV, who joined the group. The group continues their journey to the Draken Gate, where they board a giant troop carrier that takes them to Falor. And here I want to jump in and briefly tell the story of Falor. Originally a school for magicians until Syndra came along, and all the teachers were afraid of her magic, which stems from extreme negativity. When Syndra found out that the teachers wanted to limit her magic instead of helping her to control it, Syndra became angry and her negativity grew so strong and her magic so powerful that the spirit of Ionia had to intervene to stop her. For those who don't know it, the spirit of Ionia is the personification of all magic and all living things and the continent of Ionia itself. The spirit locked Syndra up in the dreaming pool, where at best she would have slept forever, while always having the same dream. Falor then became a fortress occupied by Noxus, but the fortress was later infiltrated by Ionian assassins, who accidentally woke Syndra up. Syndra killed the assassins, locks the Noxian fortress commander up in the dreaming pool, and destroys the fortress by pulling parts of it out of the ground and simply flying away with them. Okay, after that excursion we can continue with the main story. The group lands on Falor and they watch a fight in an arena, which a woman wins, who turns out to be the last member of the group. Her name is Teneth, and she, for a change, doesn't bring a strange animal with her. Let's talk briefly about the characters. Aerith is friendly and somewhat naive, and besides, he has not yet been involved in major combat. He is easily fascinated by everything the group experiences, and the others make fun of the fact that he gave the pack animal a name. Even if he is not completely satisfied with the other members of his group, he recognizes that they are superior to him and follows them. He also annoys them with questions. Tifalengi is a runesmith and relatively withdrawn and mysterious. She only tells the others what they absolutely need to know. She's annoyed by Aerith and very dutiful. She knows that her masters can replace her, so she does everything she can to accomplish the mission. Aerith is the one who speaks the least. She seems always angry and annoyed, which suits her very aggressive Greyhounds. Also, she doesn't get along well with the next member of the group, which would be Merit. She's very snooty. She claims that a large part of the Noxian country has once belonged to her family and therefore considers herself better than the others. Otherwise, she seems relatively easy to deal with, at least more than the previous two. The last member of the team is Tenef. Of all of them, she's the most sociable and normal, even if she's a bit rough. Tenef, Merit, and Errol served together in the first invasion, along with another person. At night, Aerith gets woken up by Tenef with a knife at his throat. He's pulled out of his tent and forced to his knee next to Tifalengi. The other two women are standing next to them. It turns out that it is Tifalengi's mission to hunt Riven, which fought together with the women other than Tifalengi in the first invasion. The others were sure that Riven was dead, but Tifalengi's rune-worked sword can lead them to her. Tifalengi's masters could hear the magic in Riven's sword screaming when Riven tried to break it, and they saw that Riven was still alive. Furthermore, Tifalengi wants the others to join her in her search for Riven. They are deserters for now, but if the mission succeeds, they will not be punished. Tifalengi also says that the mission's goal is to capture Riven and bring her back to Noxus. Keep that in mind for a moment. One by one, the others accept to help Tifalengi to hunt their former companion, who's now a traitor. Tifalengi raises her sword and runes start shooting out from the blade, which become a trace that leads deeper into Ionia. So that was the first part of the story. Very briefly, two things. First, it makes sense that Tifalengi works for the Black Rose, LeBlanc's secret order. Second, in the end, Tifalengi lies to the others when she claims that the goal of the mission is to return Riven to Noxus. In the beginning of the story, we learn that Tifalengi's mission consists of bringing something back. Something that is irreplaceable, not someone. I assume that they talk about Riven's sword, but that will be shown in the later parts. Okay, part 2. Part 2 begins with the dream of Errol, but it doesn't seem particularly important. Errol wakes her up and informs her that before they can move on, they need to replenish their supplies, and he and Tenef plan to go to a nearby village. The group has already left Felor and has arrived on the Ionian mainland. When Tenef and Aerith leave the group to head for the village, it rains. In the village, they see Noxian soldiers whose outpost nearby was sabotaged the night before, and who are now looking for a scapegoat in the village. They surround an old Ionian with a parcel in hand, who says that he comes from Rele, from the Spirit Blossom Festival, about which we have learned in the short story Perennial. The Noxians do not believe that there's tea from a spirit blossom in the packet, and rather assume a weapon. According to the Ionian, tea can be made from spirit blossoms, and whoever drinks it can communicate with the soul of the deceased. The spirit blossom from which his tea was made was that of his son, and he bought the tea for his wife, who was unable to make the trip to Wele. But the Noxians, who still suspect a weapon, spill all of the tea in the rain. Tenef urges Aerith to do nothing and just go back and replenish their supplies elsewhere. With the bad news, they return to the group and they all set out to move on. They encounter a very dangerous specimen of the Ionic fauna that all survive unscathed, and then an unpleasant encounter with the Ionic nature in the form of a river that flows over the banks, in which they lose Second, one of the 4 Dracones. At first glance, the next meeting is a bit happier because it is with Aerith's father. He had fought in the first invasion and allegedly died, but in reality he has deserted and now lives with other deserters and Ionians in the village the group found. But Aerith doesn't see why his father deserted. He still believes in the Noxian ideal and is angry with his father. He leaves his father, who then asks the group to leave the village and leave them in peace as a thank you for keeping the group safe from the rain and in stock. The group briefly discuss whether they want to kill everyone in the village, a decision where Aerith is not sure which result he would prefer, but they decide against it and move on. They come across an old Ionian man who warns them that there is a terrible place ahead of them, where suffering has happened that cannot be imagined. Tenef replies that they don't have to imagine it and walks past him. The place they reach was a dusty plain, completely without life. The floor had a sickly green tinge, and the sour air stung when inhaled. Tenef, Errol, and Merit tell that when the war between Noxus and Ionia had raged for years, a weapon was said to have been found. Some Zornite chemist created chemical fire. It is clear that this chemist is Singed, quote from Singed's backstory. The result of his efforts was an alchemical fire that was unstable, volatile, and utterly horrifying. When it was finally unleashed in Ionia against the enemies of Noxus, it burned hot enough to fracture stone and tainted the earth around it with dense metallic poisons, so completely that almost nothing would grow there. The women, along with Riven, had been ordered to protect it and bring it to the front, but they were attacked, and because there were so many enemies, Riven had called for help. But the allied Noxians nearby could not know exactly where they were, so they shot in their direction, causing the vessels holding the chemical fire to ignite. Allies and enemies burned, and all of the women had suffered serious injuries, and they were sure that Riven had died in the flames. Just when Teneth was finished telling the story, they saw silhouettes on the nearby hill, a war group of the Brotherhood of Navori, who seems to have been made aware of the group by the villagers. A fight broke out, during which an Ionian started singing a lilting, haunting melody that no living thing should be capable of. The ground started to shake, and the dead bodies of those who died here rose from it, and they attacked the group. In the chaotic battle that follows, Aerith manages to get close to the singer and kill him. The group then wins the fight. They decide to move on as soon as possible, and Teneth says that she had hoped to see Riven among the dead. The story ends with Tifalengi expressing that they are now very close to Riven, and Aerith thinking about his father, and in the end throwing away the amulet made from his father's bone that was brought to Noxus on the assumption that it was the last thing left of his father, but in reality was just a little finger which he had cut himself off. So, that were the two stories. This video has become a bit longer than I would like, but I really wanted to summarize both stories in one video, and both of them are really long. Next we look at the new story about Riven.